Hello everyone, welcome to another Starcraft 2 video. This is going to be a quick one as I'm just going to go over the new ladder maps as they will be out today. And since I can't be playing right now, may as well do something Starcraft related because I need my fix. So, I guess we'll start by talking about the maps that have gotten removed from the ladder pool. No more Scrap Station! Hurrah! I hated that map, it was terrible for Terran, and I had a thumbs down the entire time, so I'm pretty happy that that is gone. Slag Pits is now gone. That was a very close rush distance map. It had very easy to siege the mineral line from the low ground of the guy's main base. So it was a really good map for Terran, but in terms of balance, it's actually a good thing that it's out because it was not a very well balanced map, even though it favored my race. Delta Quadrant, kind of like the same scenario as Slag Pits, but maybe not as bad. It was also close rush distance. But I felt it was a little more balanced in that it had the in-base naturally. You could take it as a second or a third base. Little mixed feelings about that because that was a decent map, I believe. I'll miss it anyways. I think I played pretty well in Delta Quadrant. It was one of my best maps. And finally, Metalopolis. The map has been with us since the beta is finally out of the map pool. Most consider Metalopolis one of the most balanced maps. Obviously, close position is favors Terran a little too much. Cross position is a little bit easy for Zerg. But yeah, I was very comfortable with that map. It was good for my Fortress Fast Expand. Most people are upset it's gone. I think until Blizzard makes sure that there's nothing imbalanced on their map pool, they probably shouldn't be pulling off maps that most people like, at least not yet. But that's alright. That's, it had its run. So now we're going to jump into the new maps that have been added to the map pool, and we're going to start with Searing Crater here. This is the one that was originally referred to as 1v1 test number 2, the rush map. So this is going to be a rush map in that it's small rush distance, to get from one base to the next. It is not a long distance. It's kind of hard to tell on the perspective of looking at the whole map at once, but you gotta trust me on it. It's not a far rush distance at all. So I feel like this is going to be like a replacement for Delta Quadrant. It's a 4-player map, but very small and small rush distances. Very similar entrance to Delta Quadrant as well, as you'll have like a natural expansion, but if you're doing the Fortress Fast Expand, it won't protect your ramp at all. Yeah, so except for not having an in-base expansion spot available, it looks pretty similar. So I guess I'm going to talk about these maps a little bit in broad sense, as well as kind of for my strategies. So obviously I mentioned Fortress Fast Expand won't cover the ramp at all, but you can still do it. You can always do it, right? You just got to cover the ramp separately with your own bunker on the high ground. This is interesting here. I always thought it was like a vision blocker, but it's actually like a full-on wall. I don't think you can land units on top of it, but it is like a solid wall here. So, for instance, siege tanks on the far side of the wall would be able to hit a hatchery here. So it could make like 2-base pushing a Zerg really effective. You just get siege tanks on this side, and then what's he going to do? Run Zerglings all the way around? It could be a lot of trouble for him. On the same respect, in a TVT, if I'm doing my Sky Terran build and the other Terran does his, typical push, which they'll always do at some point where they come at me with Marines and tanks, and I gotta hold it with just a planetary fortress and Banshees. This could make a really interesting dynamic. This wall will actually keep his Marines from falling into range of my fortress, which will be nice, but also mean it'll be very tough for him to protect his siege tanks. If he has them on the far side of the wall, I can snipe it with a Banshee and stay out of the Marine range. And if he tries to come in the sides, he's going to have limited space. So I think that'll actually help my TVT in the most part. This is probably supposed to be your natural third. Despite the shadow here, this is all low ground. There is no ramp. That's just kind of a vision blocker right here. So it's kind of wide open. The only choke point's right here, which is wide. So obviously the big plus side though is that choke point has destructible rocks. So for at least a good portion, this will be easily defended. The high yields look decent actually for me, since I always do fortress expansions. They're kind of off on the side of the screen, yet, but the wide open space doesn't bother me too much because I'm defending with a fortress. Harass. Looks like you'll be able to block that quite well. Your base goes right up against the edge of the map, so it's just some well-placed turrets, say like along here and along here. I can completely cut off mutas from getting in. I'm mostly thinking of when doing a mass raven build where mutas can flat out kill me, and I gotta keep them from spotting my ravens. Yeah, so that's about all that comes to mind. We got a central Zelnaga tower here, but as you can see, if you're going vertically, you'll be outside of the sight range. So if you're, it looks like that if you spawn vertically from your opponent, that's going to be the more dangerous rush positions. Horizontally, yeah, you got these ramps that can do the same thing, but those ramps are protected by destructible rocks, so you'd actually have to go a long way through the middle, which means you can get spotted by the tower, and it's a little bit further rush distance. But yeah, anyways, moving on, we're going to move on to 1v1 Test 1, which has now been named NaRasimha Crypt. This is going to be like a medium-sized map. Yeah, so looks interesting. I think I'm going to like this map pretty well. I mean, Fortress Fast Expander probably won't cover the ramp, but most don't these days, and I've been doing okay. It might actually. It's hard to tell. It might get some coverage. Maybe with a range upgrade, you can actually fully cover it, which would be cool. Once again, your bases, your natural right against flush against the edge of the screen, so it'll be easy to kind of zone the muta harass out. There's this wide open, like it's a large main base. There's a wide open space out front, which could make like defending like a blue flame drop, where I used to line my whole base with turrets. That could be more difficult to hold. But this main base is probably no bigger than Shattered Temple, which is also large. We got a vision blocker up front here. That won't be too important for me because I'm not really defending up in this zone. I'm defending back at my fortress. Wide open space in the middle. The only thing blocking out the middle is these high ground tower areas. And with 4 towers, I can see Xur getting a lot of map control on this map, just really taking control here. Being able to own this space might make Hellions like a little bit better of an option, as you can kind of keep them from going masseling and taking all these towers easily. Third base options look a little sparse though. There's nothing going on in the middle, so I guess you have to take this as your third, which is fairly close. However, I can see this high ground nook here being annoying for all players. You know, you can say a Colossus or a dropship up here. Sorry, Colossus or a siege tank up here and just do a lot of damage. You can do some sort of dropship play with like medevacs, where you have some units on low ground and some on the high ground. That can be really hard for someone else to defend. And yeah, it kind of looks like 3-base play. After that, you gotta take another main base. Well, it actually won't be that difficult. No, I kind of yeah, I like this map. I think in every way. I'm not really seeing any issues here. No destructible rocks I can see, unless these clumped up things in the corner would be pointless destructible rocks, but I don't think they are. Probably just doodads of the screen. So yeah, I think the only really defining characteristics is the wide open space in the middle with the 4 Zelnaga towers to cover all of it. I think if you're ever able to get control of the entire middle, the whole vision here, it would be pretty insanely powerful. So we're going to move on to the other medium-sized map, which is used to be 1v1 Test 3, now called Apathy Caverns. Okay, so first of all, yeah, Fortress Fast Expand is not going to cover the ramp whatsoever. With your fortress way back here and your ramp way up here, you're going to be reliant on bunker coverage. And I don't really like how it's almost like what's the opposite of a bay? Geography. Whatever. I don't like how like the land just kind of sticks out like this, because if you do a high ground bunker to defend the wall, which you'd have to if you're doing my fortress fast expand, because the fortress doesn't cover it all. Once he has high ground sight, he can nail from stalkers with a full concave all the way around here. Maybe even roaches can get shots in from the low ground. So I think this will be a very difficult to hold ramp. Also, then it's kind of a nook off on its own. It's going to be very easy to void raise to poke away at it and then retreat behind this this wall protection. So I can see holding this ramp to being very difficult. A lot of space in your base as well. So blue flame drop could be hard to prevent blue flame from coming in from any angle, especially if you spawn in the bottom left or the top right, which is a discrepancy I'm seeing right away. Where if you're in this space here or this space here, it looks like it's nice as flush against the edge of the screen. But in the corners, there's plenty of space to fly behind your base. So meteors can come in from any angle, drops can come in from any angle. Yeah, so for myself personally, and the strategies I like to use, I could see this being a big problem. Yeah, even in TVTs, it looks like he could siege push straight into my base, and my fortress would be left out of the equation altogether, which I don't like at all. So this will probably be a thumbs down for me. The gold expansion looks pretty easy to hold. It's just the two narrow paths to come in. And yeah, you have the high ground in the back, but it's not easy to get to. I mean, if we spawn here and here, if he tries to actually move his force behind your third expansion there, that just leaves an attack lane right open, going straight into his base. Interesting that every rush path would have to pass by this Naga tower too. So if you get this early, you'll be able to see any incoming rush. Only the destructible rocks here is a ground path that bypasses this Naga tower, but obviously in early rush you don't want to be taking down destructible rocks. Oh, never mind. I take that back. You can actually go through the low ground here. I think this would be interesting for very long games to see how the map gets cut in half. Anyways, yeah, I'm not liking the look to this. I'll try it out a few times, but I have a feeling this is going to be my thumbs down. And then final map we have is the macro map 1v1 test 4, which is wrong one, but same tile set right here, Antigua Shipyard. So right away you can see this is a very, very easy to hold basis. Your natural expansion is on the high ground itself, so you get another high ground ramp here you can defend. A little bit wider, but still very easy to defend, much like Shakira's Plateau. Also, to get into your base, they have to run past your natural just to get to ramp to your main. So obviously, Fortress Fast Expand would be like ridiculously easy to hold here. The fortress completely covers the path to your ramp. You can create a little wall off like this direction, and then you're completely defended from any run by. However, at the same time, this is an easy fast expand for every race, so I don't really like that much. Like, if I'm facing a Protoss player and I do a fast expand, my Fortress fast expand, and he does say like a 1-gate expand or a 2-gate expand, he'll be ahead. And I don't see any reason he won't want to do it on a map like this. It's very hard for me to rush him. So if he takes that fast expansion, he's going to have a lot of units by the time I push out, and then when I do push out, I'm going to have to like move up this ramp, which he can easily just force field off. Or if I get on the high ground, he's got this high ground here where he can hang out with his first Colossus or two. Yeah, so very easy to take bases. Even the third base here, you can see you have like, here's your basically your choke to your natural, and right outside of it you have your choke to your third. And third base looks quite easy to hold. It's on the high ground, small choke entrance, very close to your second base. And I believe this is destructible debris here, so you can cut in a different route, but again, small area to vent. It's, you know, everything's walled off, so you don't get the wide open space to kind of just do whatever you want in there. So some sort of like mass Zerg surround or just kind of poking in with Hellions will be very difficult because this is a limited space here. The exact opposite of that is these high yields are completely impossible to defend, it looks like. First of all, they're out in the middle. Wide open space around them completely. They're spottable from the Zelnaga Tower. There's high ground above them that you can attack from. So unless you have full map control, like have your opponent pinned back, there's basically no way to take these high yields and defend them, planetary fortress or not. Maybe, well, that's not necessarily true. Say if I spawned here as Terran and my Protoss opponent spawned here, I could push out towards him and take my third here as the planetary fortress. That way I have a fortress as my third, and kind of he has to attack my third because it's very hard for him to like get around and come at my natural. So I can make my third here and keep my entire army at the same point. That's one of the advantages of Terran, is you can use a fortress and then expand towards your opponent. Or other races, it kind of makes more sense to expand away from your opponent. Get an expansion far away, so he has to divert a small portion of his force, or if he sends his entire force, it leaves his main base open. But since you can attack with your fortress and your units together, which is really powerful, you can actually expand towards your opponent as a Terran player. This is also a large map. I can tell by how small the minerals are, like just visually. So it's not going to be any close rush distances. And even like if we're like spawning these two places which look close together, you can see the actual rush path is very long. It's got to kind of loop around. Same with this way, kind of go up here and loop in. Yeah, so those are the three maps. We got our rush map, Searing Crater, very small, tough to hold expansions, very tough to get a third. Then we got a couple that are in between with NaRasimha Crypt and Abysmal Caverns. I can see Abysmal Caverns having a lot of issues for my build, so I'm probably going to thumbs it down. This map, NaRasimha Crypts, I like a little bit better. In fact, a lot better. I think this will be a good map for me. And finally, the macro map, which is Antigua Shipyard. Very large, very easy to hold bases, very easy to take second, very easy to take third. Maybe even too easy for my liking. I may want to do an orbital as my second rather than a planetary fortress, which would require me to kind of learn how to play all over again. But yeah, I can see this being good for Mass Raven build though. Every further expansion, like my third, my fourth, my fifth, will all be very easy to take and hold. Well, not to take, but easy to hold once I get a fortress up. Like if I got a fortress up here, that makes, not only does it defend this base really well, but I'll be able to take this one easily. These bases that are typically natural thirds would be really good places just to get a ninja planetary fortress out, as the fortress will cover the base very well. Yeah, so that's about all the babbling I have to say. These are the 4 new maps. This is how I think it will kind of affect my strategies. And yeah, this will be great for my Sky Terran too, this map. Just TVP is the only thing I'm worried about. Anyways, I was trying to conclude this video, which I'll do now. So thank you everyone, and goodbye.